Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video we are going to be doing a temperate carnivorous plant update. It's springtime, so there's lots of work to do in the springtime to get them ready for their growth season. All kinds of plants are out here. We're out on my deck today. My bog plants are down below here, and I have basically everything out. We're going to give everything a good hack just in time for springtime. The first thing I wanted to show you was the cobra lilies. So this is sort of how they look at the end of winter. Some of the bigger pitchers are dried up. I found the bigger the pitcher, the more bugs it can catch, the quicker the pitcher actually fills with bugs and dies, fills with insects. So you're going to give them a good trim up this time of year. You want to be careful with these guys because they're a little bit more delicate. You don't want to just hack them off. They're slower growers. But I see we have new bud coming out already, so that's a good sign. I did go ahead and trim this guy up off camera, so you can just see I took some of the dead pitchers and just cleaned it up, made it look nice and presentable. So that would be what you would do for your cobra lilies this time of year. And we're gonna go down and work together on these bog plants. There's all kinds of sarracenias, Venus flytraps, and sundews down there to get ready for spring. So why don't we go ahead and do that really quickly. I have about an hour's worth of light left, and I think the good light is starting to fade fast. So let's get started. Okay, here are 2 out of 3 of my bog planters. They're definitely looking a little bit ratty from the winter time. They had a good fall. Growth was really strong right up until the end. But I'm going to set you down now, and we're going to kind of chop these guys back together. Certain things are going to get a good haircut, and other ones are just going to get just what they need, just the basics. Alright, let's sit you down here. The first thing in front of us is a Sarracenia hybrid. It's called Judith Hindle. And I am just going to get my bucket and my scissors. My bucket I'm just using as a garbage can. Judith Hindle is one of those ones that it can have a good haircut every year. And you want to do this before any of the new growth starts. So I encourage you to get down really close to the ground with these guys and just cut them off like so. So I just sort of hold them up so I can see where I'm cutting. You want to make sure that you do this before the new growth starts, or else it becomes very tedious. And I'm just going to cut it all off. Kind of hurts. Some of the pictures are still looking good, but the sad thing is, even though they're looking good, they're only going to look good for a short time, especially compared to the other springtime pictures. So we just give those guys a cut back like that. That's a Judith Hindle there. I'm going to turn this around a bit and let's see what else we can find. The big guy here is a purpurea. Now these guys, they're slower growing. Their pitchers are going to last for a few years. So I really recommend with a purpurea. Obviously get rid of the leaves that are in there. And I would just clean up the really dead ones. And sometimes it takes kind of cutting the pitcher into 3 spots before you can really clearly see where the pitcher ends. You don't want to cut any of the pitchers that are looking good on these guys, because it does take them a few years to get to a good size again. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim a few of these guys. Now, one thing to note with the purpureas, they are filled with water even this time of year, where the Judith Hindles are not, so they're a little bit muckier. That one looks good. You can see underneath here there's just some dead ones. I don't know if you can see that. They haven't seen the light of day for a few years probably. So others just rip off. But the key is, if it looks pretty good on a purpurea, there's a flower stem. I will cut off that close to the base. If it looks good on a purpurea, pretty much leave it. Unlike the other SARS, they don't get the complete haircut every year. Other ones that are similar to that, this is the Psittacina right here, just off camera. They're a slower grower as well, so I would just recommend with Psittacinas, just cut the ugly ones. This one isn't even a very big plant yet. It's one of my seedlings from 2 years ago, I guess. So it's done pretty good. But I'm just going to cut off just the brown ones on the Psittacina. What do we got here? This one here is a flava. It's a younger one as well. The camera keeps wanting to sway there. Hopefully you can still see that. Flavas, I give a good cut. This guy's nice and little still, so I will just give him a complete haircut. Here is another flava down here. It's a seedling as well. It hasn't got any of its non-carnivorous leaves yet. So I'm going to give that a quick haircut right off. What else do we got in here? This is a Dixie Lace, I think. It is a Citacina hybrid. I tend to leave it. I'll cut the ugly pictures or the dead ones. But for the most part, it takes a couple years. Any of those really hooded ones, I guess. So as you can tell, I'm just sort of doing a quick tour of all these things with you. Here is my little minor that's tucked in here. Again, I'm going to just cut off what is dead on the minor. But why don't we leave this one, and we will come back to it at the end. We'll move over to the next bog pitcher, planter, and see what we're doing there. Okay, this guy here, he looks even more ratty, to be honest. These guys in front of us are the Leucophyllas. They're the white pitchers, just like this guy here. I just cut this one off, even though it still looks good. Remember, although it looks good now, it's not going to look good later. So, with the Leucophyllas, I give them a good haircut. And I'm going to try to be careful here, because there's some Sundews in this mix as well. But, oops, get you back in focus for the next one. How's that? And I cut them quite close down. And then at the end, I'll come back and I'll give everything a better haircut when I can see where everything is. But at this point, I just know for sure that there's no new growth yet. It's just the third week in February. So within the next few weeks anyways, there's definitely going to be some new growth that's coming. Let's turn it around a little bit more. So there is a flava in the middle here. Or no, this is Oreophylla. That is an Oreophylla sand mountain in the middle there. It has its non-carnivorous leaves. All the carnivorous leaves are pretty much gone, but I'm going to leave the non-carnivorous leaves. They're healthy just like this. So anything that looks non-carnivorous like that. There's another purpurea in here. So I'll cut off the biggest, ugliest pitchers. And this is one of those things that when I'm not filming it and sort of, oops, we'll wait for the traffic to go by. When I'm not filming it, I just take my sweet time doing this. It's nice and relaxing. But I want to keep this video to 15 minutes or so if we possibly can. What else is in here that we can look at together? Here are my Venus flytraps. They're probably pretty dormant. I don't know if they're going to do anything. They're not going to do much. Venus flytraps are one of those sort of delicate ones. You can see it hasn't been that harsh of a winter. They still have some of the green. With Venus flytraps, I work them back and just cut off anything that's black. Anything that's green, I still leave it. So those guys are pretty easy, but I'm going to do them sort of last. I'll give everything else a haircut in here that I've showed you. I'll cut it off really good, and then come back to these guys just because they're lower. In amongst these ones are Droceras. You can see the hibernacula here. So these guys are still very dormant. This is a Drocera intermedia. It's a temperate sundew. Now I find that with these guys, I find that with all sundews actually, and it's never really spoken, but sundews are kind of almost like an annual to me. Wait for the car to go by. Sundews are kind of like an annual to me. They live nicely for a few years, and then after that they just kind of go weedy and not look so good. So I usually replant them every few years. Now I'm going to swing the camera this way for a second. Now as you can see right here at the tip of my scissors is last year's hibernacula for Drocera intermedia. It's just sort of a tight little forming bud there. This year's looks very similar, other than there's tons and tons of old sundew leaves under it. They're really hard to deal with because there's just so many hundreds of them, and they just sort of form a mushy mat. They will come back from this, but they start to, because they've grown so much, they're up on a stem now, and they're kind of wobbly, that sort of thing. Don't know if there's any good ones. Some of them didn't make the winter time, even though it was a really mild winter. Here's some here that I don't think will come back at all. But what I was going to say is, here are all the seed pods from the sundews, from the Drosera intermedias. So what we do is we make sure we keep some of these seeds, and that way this year we can grow some new ones and put back in the spots where the old ones have died. Like I say, they just, for whatever reason, they only last for a couple of years for me. You can see there's a good shot of a few years worth of growth of a sundew, and now it's just sort of dead on top. This one's probably 2 or 3 years old. So what we will do here, I'm just getting back off my knees and grabbing another pot. Hopefully we have enough room down here. I'm putting a pot. I'm putting a couple pieces of paper down here. I'm just working down here. And I just have an old envelope. So what I will do is I'm going to collect some of these seeds. And I just cut them off with my scissors. This way is a good looking one to start with. Here we go. And I will save the seed pod. Hopefully it'll focus there. I'll save all the seed pods actually. But what I wanted to show you is how we get the seeds out of it. So normally these guys, if they haven't been outside for the winter, they are going to need a winter dormancy. It's called stratification for the seeds. These guys are already stratified. So I'm just going to pick off one seed there. You can see it in my hand. Maybe you can see it in my hand. There we go. And then I'm going to pick off the end where the petal used to be, and inside there, sundew seeds are absolutely tiny, but you can see them falling out. They're all over my thumbnail. Anyways, so there are the sundew seeds, just like so. And there's probably, I don't know, 50 or 100 seeds there. They're just tiny. Tiny, tiny, tiny. I usually use a piece of paper. That's why the paper is out here. And I can dump them onto the paper. And that way I can still see them. So you can see the sundew seeds on the paper. Now I can either plant them directly back in the main pot, because we know that we're going to be spreading them out evenly. Or in this case, I'm just going to put a few in this pot. This has got some Venus flytraps in. So we'll just do that. And that is all I need to do. Those guys have been stratified for the winter. They're going to start to germinate when spring comes, and there will be a little pot of sundews there. And that way, as they grow in the summertime, I can put them back in here, because it looks like some of these older sundews just simply aren't going to make it. As I say, they're only good for a couple of years, but literally one flower just gave me 50 new plants, so nothing to worry about there. You're kind of always growing the sundews. They go through stages where they look good and don't look good, and it looks like this crop of them is pretty much done. So those will just get removed. But anyways, that is what I'm going to do for now with you guys. So I'm going to stop the camera. I'm going to clean these up, and then I will show you what they look like after they're all cleaned up. Alright, so there is a 5-gallon bucket full of pitchers. I'll just sit you down a little bit here, and you'll be able to see I just gave a complete haircut. I'm just trying to untangle my microphone cord while we move over here. So everything has a complete haircut. The plants that I said I would leave a little bit, I left. I just removed some of the dead pitchers on them. Sarracenias. Here's the Sarracenias again. So what this does is it not only gets rid of the old pitchers that look ugly, it puts plenty of light down into the aromazones and makes it so that you'll get more buds, more blooms, more healthy growth faster. And yeah, the sundews, a lot of them I did just pull out. There are the seeds from the sundews, so they can just dry out a little bit. They'll be good for a little while. And these sundews you can go from germinating to blooming size in just like 6 months. So they grow really, really fast. Again, that's why I kind of believe that they're more like an annual than a perennial anyways. So, anyways, that is how I clean up my bog planters for spring. They're pretty much ready to go now. A few little scraggly leaves left. I could have done a little bit better, but I'll leave it for now. So, if you like this video and you want to see more videos like this, make sure you subscribe to my channel, and we'll do an update on these guys again in a few months. Probably when we have some bloom spikes or some flowers. Thanks for watching, guys.